I personally disagree that they don't have enough talent to win big events. Like I think they do. I think it's just like
Cloud9.
Cloud9, yeah. I think there's just a problem with.
Okay.
I think Shroud is okay. So I talked to a player who I won't blow up his spot, but he told me that when he was playing against Shroud on Long B at Katowice, that Shroud would come into Long B. He would like hold it. He would like shoot a little bit, and
what
then
map are we talking about here?
Cobble. Sorry, it's a Cobble, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, no,
so yeah, just like in the default Long B smoke, and they're just like trying to make presence, and Shroud would barely make any presence, and then kind of fall off. And this player said that he killed him through the same one-way smoke 3 rounds in a row. And then they replaced him with Stewie, and Stewie was throwing nades, Stewie was spamming through smoke, Stewie was making it extremely difficult to get up on Long B and hold control of it. And he said that I've never played against someone who was as mechanically gifted as Shroud that was so underwhelming. So I think that Shroud has, and if you see his nades, Shroud has amazing nades. He has amazing mechanics. Everybody knows that. But when he's in the server and when he's in the match, he's not playing against his teams properly. And I think that shows. And I think that is something that he can change. So mechanically, I think it's there, but I think he is a huge problem.
Okay, here's the problem though. This is where I have to like go over the terminology used there. Like, here's the thing. Can he? Yes, in theory, it is possible. I agree that he could change what he does and be better. Like, if you took over his brain tomorrow, knowing what you know now and what you've just mentioned, I think you could pilot him to be a more successful player. My problem is, I don't think he can. Like, after watching him play for all these years, talking to ex-teammates, talking to ex-in-game leaders, I get the sense from Shroud that he's not a player who wants to play the way most people envision him playing. If you said that Skadoodle's a good player, right?
Let's go back. Let's rewind the tape.
Launders. So, Stewie 2K, Automac. We've got them on Launders Cloud9 team. We've got Shroud.
Okay, you want me to pick the rest of the team?
Listen.
Okay.
You said that Shroud has all these great qualities. He could play more aggressively and he'd be good. So we've got Shroud locked in. I've got 3 of the 5. Skadoodle's a good player, so you want him on your team, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Are you going to take nothing as well?
Are we talking about... I think nothing is really good. I think he's improved so much that he's actually really good.
Good. Right. So, Launders, you want all 5 of the current Cloud9 players. So tell me,
I like Cloud9.
What would Laund... Well, I mean, listen...
No, because they're good.
Some people get pegged up the arse, but you don't have to talk about it in polite company, do you? Keep that in the private life.
For coaches, I agree with what you just brought up. It's like it's so new, and the rules keep changing for the coaches. There's no really set in stone what a coach is and what a coach needs to be on a CS team right now. It's like it's still in the open, and it's still in the making for what fits in.
See, when Zeus said that, when he said, listen, Pip, I need you to commit to be a full support player, you should have just patched Moses in on the 3-way. He goes, doesn't exist. And then you go, oh, my mistake, Moses. I only won 2 majors. Yeah. You win, Moses.
I would have hooked it up. I would have hooked it up. I would have hooked it up.
Okay. And then obviously after that, once he doesn't fully accept Moses' authority, because he did see him pick Cloud9 a lot in a lot of events, then we just say, okay, well, what about this then? We'll bring in an ex-pro. So we patch in Sponge. He's like, yeah, doesn't exist as a role. And then what would happen is, obviously Zeus, I get to be Zeus in this, would just go, maybe if there'd been a support player in Renegades, you might have won some games. And they just drop the mic. Like, that would be an end. So what's good is Sponge wasn't even in a real scenario there. He still got burned. And Zeus didn't even really say that. That was me the whole time, Moses. But in your mind, it feels like Zeus got an epic burn off on Sponge. So
you see the
theatre of the mind we're at now, Moses. It's a radio show, I'm actually playing all the parts myself. A one-man show. Also,
I want to say that like John was a pain in the ass sometimes, but he's also like, and that's something I respect a lot. Like, he knows it. He knows he has a problem, and he's working on it, and that's really all you can expect from people. Like, you can't expect more than that. As long as you admit you have a problem and then work towards fixing it, then you can't expect more. Whatever that takes a month or that takes a year, that's up to each individual and how bad the problem is. But as long as he's working on it, then for me it's all good. And he did that throughout my liquid period. He was aware that he had a problem and he started to work on it. And so did some other of us as well. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah. So I respect that.
Okay. Yeah. And here's the thing, though. Maybe this is where, like, cultural differences, like mistranslation, I feel like you tried to have that heart-to-heart and you're like, listen, Leash, you're kind of like me, but when I was younger. And he's like, what, fat? And you're like, well, no, obviously not. And I mean like an asshole. He's like, oh, thanks. Fuck you. Just like I mean, the thing is, I actually feel like G2, their big problem isn't even like the skill level of the team and the potential and all that. Like, as a team, they're clearly fantastic. It's just that their problem is, if you think of the trio of teams where you know at least one or two of these would be in your way to win the major, so it is SK, FaZe, Astralis. Okay, so against SK, yeah, they did great here, but that's with no Cold Zero. So put Cold Zero in there. I'd love to see that match again, run that one back. Then think about FaZe. That's the one where, if you remember, they had that series at Star Series, which was their first big LAN, where that was just like, okay, you like to force buy? I like to mini half force buy. Like, you like a force buy, bro? I put a force buy in your force buy, so now you must force buy. Like, some sort of mad logic. Like, they were trying to play like chicken in traffic, and at the end, like, someone crawled out of the wreckage, but no one was in like great shape after that one, if you remember. That was a nightmare.
In the end, the fucking van jumps the curb and runs over all. Oh, that's actually like a really bad analogy to make, isn't it? No, but in the end, like, that's where like all the viewers just get hit.
Yeah, yikes. See, Moses meant that just as a general metaphor that could happen with a truck. Not all trucks, Moses. Not all. Anyway, I got what you were meaning there.
You really do hate to see that, don't you?
You do.
Really
you do.
hate to see
Missteps made in podcasts. No, here's the thing. I know what you mean, though. All right, I tell you something that we should definitely discuss this while we're on the topic is, obviously this week is the Clash for Cash.
Ooh.
And you will be there, but only as a commentator, I noticed, not as an analyst.
Only as a commentator.
Well, you have to understand, I know to you, Moses, and to other commentators, you think that is the superior job. But as Henry G is well aware from spending time around me, it is actually an inferior job. So, obviously, I know the answer already, Moses. You wanted the week off. You just wanted to take it easy.
I want the caster lifestyle, man.
Talk a little bit about the games, you didn't want to have to hold up games for 20 minutes giving your theories about things while players wait to start, and all other conspiracy theories that retards imagine are a real thing. So obviously the big event this week, as alluded to, is ECS in the UK, and it almost couldn't come at a more perfect time, because ECS have to be the luckiest fucks ever for this season. Because last season, actually, their finals were a bit underwhelming. Because if you remember, like, Envious took a spot when Envious wasn't good. And then, like, Dignitas stole a spot but used to stand in instead of, like, all the other teams that could have been there, like fucking Na'Vi and VP. Whereas this time, not only did ECS, which only has 4 EU spots, get both FaZe and Astralis through, they also got through G2, who now everyone obviously really wants to see. And even the 4th spot, which was taken by Fnatic, is now even more hyped thanks to Fnatic's DreamHack summer run. And so, to me...
They also have the 4 best NA lineups.
Yeah, so 3 of those don't matter, mate. Don't ever interrupt something really good that I'm saying to tell me some shit like that again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I also, when this group came out, it was just funny because I heard Duncan's fucking giggle when Yanko started talking about Optic. Like, I don't think Optic has any chance in hell of getting out of this group. I think they're just going to get banged out. Although it will be interesting because like a team like G2 has had some close matches with them to start some group stages. And G2's been a little
Jason,
bit like,
let's save the NA hope for Group B and like.
No. I just said I don't think there's any chance. There's no hope here. I said there's no chance of them getting out. It was just interesting to see because we have seen G2 kind of falter like that in some early matches and group stages. Exactly. I actually think
hope is dead, much like Bob, also dead. R.I.P. Much loved American comedian, Moses. What's wrong? Speaking of which, actually, that reminds me, by the way, here's a good one for you, okay? I once heard this comedian who said this joke that apparently got him like banned from a comedy club, but it was straight fire. So it was famous, right? That when Bob Hope was alive, he was one of those comedians they used to send out to the troops, to go and entertain them in whatever country. I assume Korea and Vietnam or whatever, wherever they were, because it was a while ago, obviously. So his joke was when Bob Hope died, about I think it was 5 years ago or something, he just said, I heard they shipped him out to entertain all the dead troops or something.
Jeez.
That is straight banter. That is absolute. Problem is, though, I think this guy did that joke like, the day that he was dead or something like. A little bit edgy.
I think Mousesports would be interesting. I think Mousesports has a lot of firepower on that team. Like sneakily, they just all of a sudden got all these players peaking at the right moment. They have Rops, like a young talent, and on top of that, I mean, they look like they're playing well as a team. So when you put all that skill in, Oscar's been incredible recently. Like all of a sudden, Mousesports is a team that like came out of nowhere to have an immense amount of skill on their squad.
I think they're also, by the way, along with Fnatic, they're probably even more ridiculous. It's like because the thing is, you do usually get out of the group stages, but they're the team that every group stage looks really good. And then almost every time they made the playoffs, they got like SK Gaming twice in best of threes. So like, cheers. Like, I'm trying to learn the fucking like Rops is literally like I'm trying to literally learn how to play professional Counter-Strike. Do I have to play the best team in the whole game? That's like starting a fucking game of Mario. And you're like trying to figure out how to jump and hit the boxes. And then they're like, right, let's just skip you to the end of the game where you're fighting Cooper, the boss. You're like, well, I haven't played the rest of the game. They're like, no, you have to beat the boss to get to level 2 of the game. Like, oh, sound reasonable.
I think Stewie being so young and with the in-game leader thing, it's good and bad at the same time because he can build into like a completely all-round player, like a Fallen or some shit, if he continues and has a good support network and has automatic helping him. The team as a whole, I think, let's add JKS in there. Let's get my boy in that team, and they might they might be able to go somewhere, right?
Pretty good.
He had a nice hack-filled game last night.
Mate, fuck your liquid cunt, eh? See you later. But like, I think that obviously they need the roster change to get them to a consistency level, right? Like the Stitch is saying, like Nothing and Shroud, they don't normally have great tournaments. They had much better tournaments here. But you need a player who can be more consistent with that to compete at this level in the world, right? So,
I mean, even if it's not an in-game leader, like let's say that is too tough to get, just put in another player, like you're saying, JKS, put in fucking Rosh, dude. There's a bunch of players could go in this team, and let's say the style works as it does at the moment, and the players are playing well. Then adding in another good player who could fill something you haven't got now, make you even better at that style, right?
Yeah. I think like Justin could I don't want to go into why I think he'd be good in the team. I just think that like
wait a minute. You are suggesting Just 9N, who that's how Shaka calls him.
Name is
right, okay, fair enough.
No.
You almost just had a
I know. I was like, is this real life? What is this?
No, not that guy.
I don't want to go into why Justin would be the perfect player. I'd probably be the MVP of all future tournaments. Why not, though, Chad?
In this esports world, it can seem like everyone's against you, but I've always got the Skrilluminati, my Patreon community, riding with me, and it is thanks to the support of the following people. This video and all of them on my channel are made possible: Matt, Pugnatio, Rajcula, Ahmed Hadjou, Frisky, Tosh, Jensen Goh, Animosity, Torin, Tobias Bernasconi. If you've ever watched my videos, you know now I'm going to give a massive shout out to Jerky's Minion, the main man. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? You want teasers? Find out who the upcoming interview guests are. Maybe you want to ask me a question. I tend to answer them at length in my video AMA. Do you want to take part in one of those dinner discussions where we talk about what you're interested in esports? Well, if any of these perks or more appeal to you, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Skrilluminati today, where in the description box below is a Patreon link.